Hey Exalts, PoE Academy here. Crystallized Omniscience is one of the new endgame boss drops and one of the most broken items GGG has ever released. After watching the whole video, you will understand why this is and how you can take advantage of this item. The reason it is so strong is because of the penetration it grants. The amount of elemental penetration you can reach compared to other sources is way out of control. Let me give you an example. The Syrian Exarch and other endgame bosses may have 50% elemental resistances. Let's say you deal cold damage. With a cold penetration support gem on level 20, you will have 37% cold resistance penetration, so the boss still has 13% cold resistances. To reach the same amount of penetration with this amulet, you will need 370 omniscience. What if you have 600 omniscience instead? Endgame bosses now have negative elemental resistances, since both reductions from curses and elemental penetration can reduce a target's resistance below 0%. Instead of dealing less damage to the enemy, you now deal more damage to it. I think GGG introduced a negative resistance cap in 3.16 because Doyani's prototype and Scorch implicits were too strong, but I can't remember the actual number. If you know it, help me out and be so kind to put it in the comments, and also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. Sources of elemental penetration are limited in PoE for a reason, but attribute, or should I say omniscience stacking, makes it extremely easy to reach absurd amounts of elemental penetration. This makes it very easy to reach millions of damage, so better grab one amulet yourself before it is getting nerfed. Speaking of attributes, the way this amulet works is not very intuitive. What you want to do is take the highest attribute requirement anywhere on your gear or gems. For items or gems requiring more than one attribute, the highest requirement applies. Divide this number by the percentage stated in attribute requirements can be satisfied by X%. This is the amount of omniscience you will need to equip all of your gear. For example, if your highest attribute requirement is a bow with 212 dexterity, the amount of omniscience required to equip all of your gear with a 22% amulet is 964 omniscience, while it's 848 with a perfectly rolled one. Just remember that the higher the number is, the easier it gets to gear your character. You can also follow the link in the description to use the omniscience calculator yourself. Oh, and remember that modifiers affecting more than one attribute, for example plus to all attributes, plus to strength and dexterity, or percent increased attributes can only apply once to omniscience. This means that plus 10 to all attributes only becomes plus 10 to omniscience and not plus 30. The last stat that the amulet provides is 1% all elemental resistances per 10 omniscience. This mod is pretty self-explanatory. To be honest, it feels a bit weird to stack attributes on the gear instead of elemental resistances, but remember that more attributes not only grant more elemental resistances, but also more penetration. From what I've seen so far, omniscience builds usually suffer from lower life totals than other builds, since strength usually grants a significant amount of flat life. You are also prone to chaos damage, which can be mitigated by getting chaos resistances on your tree and gear. Last but not least, you want to find gear with a lot of attributes, because the barrier of entry is simply your highest omniscience requirement, as explained earlier. If you cannot get enough attributes, you simply can't equip all of your gear. The Brass Dome seems to synergize well with this item, as the only downside of strength provides no bonus to maximum life is almost neglectable for a player who cannot gain any strength above their base attributes. A Black Sun Crest helmet with perfect rolls can provide 45% increased omniscience, which is just insane. Timeless jewels are very good too. Supreme Ostentation, granted by an Elegant Hubris, will allow equipping uniques with extremely high attribute requirements like Mjolnir or Garb of the Ephemeral, while almost ignoring the downside of gain no inherent bonuses from attributes. Lethal Pride and Brutal Restraint timeless jewels may be a better choice, however, for most players due to the additive strength dex, percent increased strength dex on notables, and other good notable mods or keystones. Are there any other items that you want to see on this list? If so, share them in the comments and let us discuss how we can make them work. Thanks for staying with me until the end, and see you in the next one.